as opposed to 12% of the rest of the world, excluding some of the other big country names.
But you're not listening. You don't really care. So let's show you in a language that you can actually understand.
There is a bakery not far from school. The smell of bread on the walk to class drives us mad sometimes.
This is the joy for me. I love bread. I love bread. I now just manage it, so I don't deny myself bread. I have bread every day. I have bread every day.
The smell of bread on the walk to class drives us mad sometimes.
The powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse. The powerful play goes on and you may contribute a verse. What will your verse be?
This is Production, Africa's biggest electronics wasteland.
What will your verse be? What will your verse be?
This is the postmodern desert, inhabited by people who are, in effect, consuming themselves in the form of images and abstractions through which their desires, sense of identity, and memories are replicated and then sold back to them as products. The poorer are getting poorer and the richer are getting richer, but why should we care? Right? What does that affect our lives? Take a look at the shipping port in Chicago. These rows upon rows of shipping containers that allow you to have free 2-day shipping from Amazon. That's great. Let's take a look at the next. Oakland. The shipping ports in Oakland are huge. Fields upon fields of shipping containers, each of which could hold hundreds, thousands of iPads, so that you can have all the devices that you need in your modern society. Seattle. Again, the same thing you see. Rows upon rows of these multicolored, happy-looking containers, fueling our global consumption. And of course, Los Angeles. I mean, is this what you see when you walk into LA? Of course not. They hide it. They hide everything behind walls of buildings and consumption. But there is a problem. So why do we care? Why do we care about global consumption? After all, we're not the poorest in the world. We're America. We have freedom. We have rights. But global consumption affects everyone just as much. Well, not just as much. Actually, the poorest are affected far more than the wealthy. However, everyone is affected by global consumption. Let's look at the growth of global shipping over the past, let's say, 30 or 40 years. What you see is that overall, shipping has doubled every period of 9 years since 1980 to become over 10 times as much shipping from the day-to-day now as there was 40 years ago. What does this mean? This means global consumption has increased by a factor of 10 in just 40 years. How much has the population increased in that time? A couple billion? Global consumption has increased at a far greater rate than global population, and this is a huge problem. Do the math. If a single container from Shanghai to Los Angeles produces 1.5 tons of CO2, this is the same amount of CO2 emission as a single passenger vehicle would take 4 months to reach. Consumption is unsustainable. This cannot continue to increase at this rate. Let's do more math, right? A single cargo ship burning crude fuel can release the pollutants equal to that of 50 million cars. 3 such ships produce more harmful pollutants, including nitrates and sulfur into the atmosphere, than all of the cars in the world combined, all about 1.2 billion. These pollutants can cause asthma and cancer. Consumption is a public health issue, and it's an issue for every single one of us. All right, one more thing. If consumption continues to increase at the rate it has, we will be looking at 100 parts per million more CO2 in the atmosphere by the year 2040 than we have today. That's 28 billion tons of CO2 emitted per year on average, or 76 million tons per day. So what does this mean? This means a 4 degrees Celsius increase in global temperature by the year 2050. And that is catastrophic, irreversible climate change. That puts humans in charge of the extinction of hundreds, maybe even thousands of species across the planet. Do you want to be responsible for that?
So
This is the postmodern desert.
sorry to interrupt you, Carson. This is the postmodern desert. We now understand what global consumption is, what the consequences are. But why is this happening? It's getting worse, and there is a driving cause. So if people are consuming themselves in this massive scale, the way they are doing this is through their desires, their sense of identity, and their memories being replicated and then sold back to them as products. Think back to the videos we showed you before. All of these things are advertisements that draw us in and take these aspects of our humanity and sell them back to us to drive consumption. We're going to show you a few examples of this. So, since the 1950s, advertising has co-opted things like our desires to rise up in social status, things like our identities as mothers or siblings or, I don't know, teachers, and our memories to sell us things that they want to sell. An important case study to consider. Advertising literally created the market for deodorant. Like, deodorant was not a thing that existed. People didn't buy it until advertisements like this came out that told women they needed to face the truth about underarm perspirant, that said that all of these charms will be wasted if you use the wrong deodorant. These things that took our desires, our insecurities, and warped them, selling them back to us, have created entire industries. That is incredibly powerful, and it's something that we really need to think about. But the truth is, this isn't something that just happened in the 1950s and doesn't happen anymore. This still takes place, as we've seen earlier today, and as we're about to show you right now. Advertising capitalizes on our desires and insecurities. Those are tricks, those are strategies that advertisers use to drive consumption. It dilutes and repackages our identities. It takes versions of who we are, packages them into tiny communication boxes, and uses them to drive us to the cash register. And finally, advertising harnesses our nostalgia in order to sell us things. It has been doing this for a long time, and it is the driver behind these harmful consumption effects that you can see. We're going to show you a little insight into how this works behind closed doors so that you can understand how we can break free from this power.
But he also talked about a deeper bond with the product. Nostalgia. It's delicate, but potent. Sweetheart. Teddy told me that in Greek, nostalgia literally means the pain from an old wound. It's a twinge in your heart, far more powerful than memory alone. This device isn't a spaceship. It's a time machine. It goes backwards and forwards. It takes us to a place where we ache to go again. It's not called the wheel. It's called the carousel. It lets us travel the way a child travels. round and around, and back home again. To a place where we know we are loved.
This is this postmodern desert, inhabited by people who are, in effect, consuming themselves in the form of images and abstractions, through which their desires, sense of identity, and memories are replicated and then sold back to them as products. The people on Madison Avenue creating these advertisements are getting smarter. But are you?
The Super Bowl is about to begin again. Every few minutes, you will see commercials selling you products you don't need, driving consumption, driving irreversible climate change and inequality, selling you your humanity. Take it back. Don't buy it.
Yeah.